Hey everyone, Joe Brady here, and we're to talk about one of my favorite subjects, getting your flash off the camera. And to do that, we're going to use some simple radio triggers. Now, available light can be a wonderful light source for portraits. Full shade, indirect sunlight, and window light are common sources for illuminating a face. So why do we need to add lights? Well, on occasion, you can find the absolute perfect natural light source. It will, because of its size, illuminate the face well, create a nice gentle shadow, fill in the shadows underneath the eyebrows, add a nice little catch light. Unfortunately, more often than not, this light is not easily available for you to use when you're making your portraits. As photographers, we need to be able to shape and create light when we need it. Available light's great, but it needs a lot of help, and we need to create the light we need to sculpt and make that beautiful portrait. Now, learning to control off-camera flash is key to making this happen, and that's what we're going to explore today. The key phrase is off-camera flash. We need to get that flash off the camera. And to make our flashes talk to our camera, we're going to use some radio triggers. Now, the radio trigger I'm using today, the one I'm focusing on, is the Pocket Wizard Plus X. The thing I love about these, they're very simple to use, they're inexpensive units, yet they're bulletproof. But they have a couple of great things going for them. One, they talk to every other Pocket Wizard. I've got Pocket Wizards that are 20 years old that this works just fine with. Also, they're bulletproof. They just work. And on top of that, they talk to my light meter, which we're going to see in just a second. Now, the beauty of the Plus X is 10 channels, plug it in, one into my flash, one on my camera, and that's it. They just work. Now, if you're using multiple cameras or multiple flashes, then that brings up the Plus 3. We'll cover this in future sessions. I've also got the Pocket Wizard Mini and Flex here. These are the TTL units, which we'll also explore. All of these units can talk to each other, and by the way, all of them can do manual as well. But we're going to use a single off-camera flash today, so we're going to use the most basic trigger, the Plus X. And before you ask, you might be wondering, what's this thing on my Plus X? Well, it's actually just a cable tie. Yes, there are lanyards that come with these things. I use a cable tie for two reasons. One, well, they're really strong. You're going to really be stretched to pull this off. Secondly, I use these lemon yellow cable ties on mine because I'm around a lot of other photographers a lot. I'm at events, Pocket Wizards all over the place, and these differentiate mine from everyone else's. So it just allows me to keep my Pocket Wizards to be able to go back in my bag. So let's take a little closer look at the setup. Now, I've got my flash here. I happen to be using my Sony flash, but stay tuned, there's more to come. I've got the Plus X here. I've got my flash on a special cable. Now, the Pocket Wizards come with a standard sync cable, and if your flash has a sync port, you can just screw right into that. However, my experience has shown that the sync port is usually the weak link to maintaining a good connection to your flash. I'm not a big fan of sync cables. They're very delicate. On the one end, they have a very small fine pin coming out. You always have to have extras. I like to eliminate that. I recommend you invest a little bit more money into this. This is from Pocket Wizard also. This is called the HSFM3 cable. You have a very melodic name. But what it provides you is an external hot shoe. And you can put pretty much every flash you've got in here. It's got a single pin that connects to right at the bottom of the flash, and a mini phono plug that goes into the Pocket Wizard. I've got one here that's been slightly modified to accommodate the Sony. I've also got some other flashes here. And I want to bring that up because since we're in manual, it doesn't matter what flash we use. We're in manual. It's just going to provide some light. So to mix things up, I've got a Canon 580 EX2 here with a LumaQuest pocket bouncer. And I've got a Metz. What is this? This is a 3002 Metz flash. It's a couple years old with a Rogue grid on it. Since we're in manual, it doesn't matter. We're just going to go after enough fill to fill in those shadows and add that nice little catch light. So let's take a look at a couple of the other tools. So I've got my Pocket Wizard set. I've got it on my channel 5 here, going through the HSFM3 cable to my Sony flash. On my camera right over here, I've got another Plus X just sitting in the hot shoe. Both of these are set for channel 5. Now, the other part I need to have is an ability to measure the amount of flash hitting the scene. You guys have heard me preach over the past couple of years that 30% fill flash. And that is a good number to start with, particularly if there's some sun or full illuminated shade outside. There's going to be some variations on that number we're going to pursue as well. We're going to go out and shoot in a little bit, and it's very overcast today. It's kind of darker. So we're probably not going to go with 30% flash because it's going to start to look a little flashy. We're probably going to drop down to 20% or so just to fill in the shadows under the eyes and provide that catch light. So how do I know those numbers? Well, that's where my meter comes in. This is Sekonic 478. The 758 will do this as well. It will tell you the percentage of flash to ambient light. And as I mentioned, another beauty of these meters is they know how to talk to the pocket wizards. So I just tell it which channel I'm on. I'm on channel 5 here. Tell it 5, hit OK. And then when I hit the measure button on my meter, let me turn my flash on. So I've got my flash on, my pocket wizard on, hit the button, and it fires the flash. After I fire the flash, that will give me the percentage in the upper right-hand corner. In fact, if I hold it way out here, get a number, and since I'm in a dark studio, it told me I'm at 5.6 and the flash was 100%. When we go outside, I'm going to dial that down so I get 20 to 30%. And that's it. One other tool I did bring, we want to have our color perfect as well, so I've got a color checker passport here. We are going to shoot in RAW. Is it necessary that I white balance right away? No, if I'm shooting RAW, I don't have to. The nice thing about having a custom white balance in camera is you do get a better preview on the back of your screen because your camera is showing you a JPEG processed with your camera settings, including white balance. So if it's wrong, it might make the image kind of difficult to judge. So you can do a custom white balance in your camera. That's actually what the lighter of the two back targets are on the Sekonic version of the color checker. This is actually for white balancing. This is an 18% gray card that we use when we're doing spot metering. So the combination of our pocket wizards, our Sekonic meter, and our color checker are going to allow us to get the perfect color, the perfect amount of flash contribution, and we can get there every time and not have to guess. We don't want to guess, we want to get right the first time. Now before we go out in the field, let's talk about light modifiers a little bit. Now you've probably seen me where I've had a flash 10, 12 feet away from a subject outside that I use bare flash. You've probably seen people out in the park. I preach against this all the time. They've got their flash pointing up. They have a little piece of plastic dome on here. That's how they're cutting down the amount of flash. No need for that. When you're that distance away, stick with the bare flash. It's going to become what's called a point light source, kind of like the sun is. If I put a reflector, something like this thing, let me show you this. If I put something like this on top of my flash, it does have the effect of spreading out the light. However, if you want it to adjust the shadows on a face, remember, we're not bouncing off a wall, we're not bouncing off of anything else. For this to be effective, you need to be fairly close to the subject to make that happen. I find these are more useful if you're shooting, say, groups at a wedding rather than a single person outside. Now, you guys know I love gear. I love to have the latest toys, but you don't always need to spend a lot of money to do that. I've got this bare flash here. Well, how can I make it work a little better? Well, I stopped at the dollar store this morning, got myself a 2-foot by 3-foot piece of foam board for $1. I can use this in a variety of ways. I can have the flash fire into here at an angle back onto my subject. I can have my subject fairly close, and this will end up becoming a very large light source and create a very gentle shadow across. I can also have my flash at its 10 or 12 foot distance, have it illuminate the subject, and then put this behind the subject to fill in some of the shadow in the hair. Now I've got some conventional tools with me as well. Let me grab them. I've got a shoot-through umbrella. It's just a really simple, basic piece of equipment. These are very inexpensive. Typically you can find these for $10 or less. And I've also got a shoot-through reflector, which I dropped. I've got a shoot-through reflector which allows me to shoot right through this and expand, and we'll see this out in the field as well. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to do this stuff. Again, since we're shooting manual flash, it doesn't matter what flash you're using. I've got flashes that are 25 years old that still work just fine. We're taking control of the amount of light hitting the subject. If we get that number, that 20 to 30% we're outside, everything's going to be great. So let's take our gear. We've got our pocket wizards on the flash. I've got my meter. I've got my camera ready to go. My color checker for color. Let's get out and take some pictures. Hi, Lynette.
Hello, darling.
So we got our friend Lynette out here who agreed to come out in these very challenging conditions and try to help us get some shots. It's extremely windy. It's a beautiful day, but the wind's kicked up, and I'm not even sure if this audio is going to be listenable, but we'll see what we can do. So the Pocket Wizard, Canon flash. I've got another Pocket Wizard on the top of my camera, which is a Sony. They're both set for channel 4. That's it. Now, to know that I'm getting the right percentage of flash, I need to meter it. So let me get the flash in position, and then we can do that. So you might have noticed that on top of the flash, there was nothing. It was just a bare flash pointing at Lynette. Why? Don't I need a light shaper? Don't I need a softbox? The answer is no, because that flash is about, what would you say, 10 feet away from you? It's about 10 feet away. It's just going to become a point light source. We don't want the flash to even be noticeable. We just want it to add enough light to give a nice catch light in the eyes, to kind of open your eyes, make it look more lively. So how do I get that? So I'm just going to point the meter back to the flash, and it comes back and it tells me I'm at f4, and that's 30% flash. It says it right on here. f4, 30%, and that's it. That's how easy it is to get perfect fill flash. Just set that on my camera. Let's get some shots. You ready?
Sure.
Great. Now, right where she's standing, the sun's actually coming from behind her and illuminating the top of her hair, so it's going to be a nice separation. However, because she's more in shade, the area under her eyes is going to be more in shadow. We want to open that up without making it look like we're using flash. So I've got my 478 meter here. First thing I want to do is take an ambient reading. So I'm just going to come right in front of her. I'm in shade, and it tells me I'm at 200 ISO, 100th of a second, f4. Lovely. I'll take a couple of shots like that. Then what I want to do is I want to add somewhere between 20 and 30% flash to open up her eyes and put that little sparkle of catch light in. And Diane, if you could pan over to this flash over here. So here's our flash unit. I've got a Canon 580EX2 I've had for a couple of years, connected with the melodically named HSFM3 Pocket Wizard cable. That is hooked up to a Pocket Wizard Plus X. That's on channel 4. On top of my Sony a7R, I have another Pocket Wizard Plus X also on channel 4. They just need to be on the same channel so they can talk to each other. Notice I've got a Sony camera and a Canon flash. Because we're in manual, it doesn't matter. It doesn't care. All it's going to do is tell it to fire. The flash is on manual. I've got it set for 1/16th power as a starting point, so let's go ahead and use the meter. Also, another nice thing about this meter is it knows how to talk to the Pocket Wizards. I tell it the channel right on here. Come back to Lynette. Okay, so I've got my meter. It can talk to the flash. I just set it on flash mode, set it to the channel, come over here, take my reading, and it tells me, look at that, what's it say? Right there by my thumb. 30%. So it's gone up to 4.5, 100 ISO, 200 ISO, 1/100th of a second, 30% flash at 4.5. Perfect. So I'm going to just put my camera on those numbers, and that's as easy as it is. Pocket Wizard turned on to channel 4 to match that one, and I get to shoot. I can go anywhere I want. I can walk 100 yards away that way and still shoot, because this is my wireless connection to the flash. So that gives me the flexibility to change my point of view as long as you don't move, because what has to happen is the subject needs to stay the same distance from the flash or that ratio is going to change. So let's get a couple shots. Flash is being used. Okay, I'm going to back off a little. Perfect. This way a little more right there. Eyes to me. Perfect. Okay, that's a good position. All right, so we've got Buford in on the scene. So what you can see going on here is I've got Diane holding a translucent reflector right in front of the flash. I boosted the flash power up to 1/16th power, And what that's going to do is take this tiny little speed light and turn it into a nice big softbox. So it'll make the shadows much more gradual. And we're going to go for that same percentage. So let's do this part of the shoot. By the way, you can also see the flash stand where it was behind the tree before. That allowed me to just shoot wherever I wanted and not have it in the shot. So let's do a couple of these. So here we are at a lovely spot. This is actually just a couple miles down the street from my house. I was driving around looking for a nice place to shoot, and I've driven past this place many times, and glad I finally stopped and took a walk down along the river here. Just a beautiful spot. Now, our subject today, Tristan, is going to be here later. In fact, she's not going to be here till about 40 minutes before sundown. So it's going to be a lot darker here. So we're going to end up dealing with a lot different percentages of flash to ambient, but it still should be very interesting. Now, when you're dealing with flash to ambient ratios and direction of light, your subject is going to have a big effect on what you choose to do. Now, Tristan is not quite 17, her birthday is later this month, and she's got flawless skin. The amazing thing is, I don't even have to retouch any of her images. They're just perfect in the camera. For those of us that have had maybe a few more rotations around the sun, myself included, you have to be a little bit gentler with your light ratios. I've got the flash about 9 or 10 feet away from me. I've got just a bare flash right now because I want to see if there's a difference between the bare flash and using the white shoot-through umbrella. Now, you might have heard me say I'm not a huge fan of umbrellas, but that's in the studio. Outside in a situation like this, they are phenomenal, especially the shoot-through kind. Yes, it does spread the light out, but it causes very soft shadows, and I can get fairly close with that. Sure, it's going to throw some light behind me, but there's nothing behind me for the light to hit. So really, it's just going to illuminate the subject. Now, I've got my meter here. I'm at 100 ISO, 100th of a second, so I've got my light here. I'll just point it back to where we are, hit my number, and look at that. I get a 30% flash contribution. That's love. That should just be lovely here. Although you don't have to see a picture of me, but we're going to live with that for now. Now, that said, 30% is good for this. This is a very bright shade. That's a good, perfect contribution for bright shade. Later on, when we have Tristan here, and it's going to start to get dark, we're going to have our flash contribution go 30, 40, all the way up to 90%. And we're going to do that simply by adjusting the shutter speed on the camera. The flash is always putting out the same amount of light, so my aperture is going to stay the same. What's going to change is the shutter speed. So I'm going to go really low. When it gets dark, I'm going to be down to 1/15 of a second or so. And I'm going to bring it all the way up to a 200th of a second, which is going to make behind me go practically black. Tristan's going to have some interesting makeup on too, because she was working in kind of a Halloween store. So she's got some purple lipstick and purple eyeshadow going, but it's going to be really dramatic in these conditions as it starts to get dark. And again, we're just going to use a single light. One speed light with the shoot-through umbrella is going to be great. So again, I actually switched cameras. I brought my, my Sony A7 out because I've got my app on my phone that lets me see what I'm going to shoot before I shoot it. It actually shows me what the camera's seeing here, and I can actually fire the shutter from here. So I'm going to do a couple shots. I'm going to shoot a couple of bare flash. I'm going to put the umbrella on and see if there's a difference. In this bright shade, I don't think there's going to be, but let's find out together. And then I'll shoot a couple with no flash at all because the sun is kind of above and behind me, so it's going to put my face more in shadow. So we'll see how just adding a little bit of flash can affect that. All right, so I see the image here, just hit the button, and it takes a picture. Camera fires the flash, I've got my nice fill. That's it. So I'll put this thing down on my knee here. See if I can give a somewhat of a half decent pose. If you haven't done this kind of stuff, shooting selfies of yourself who else are you going to shoot selfies of? Shooting selfies of yourself is a good idea. It's good practice. You get to learn what the body is doing shape-wise. Yeah, I'm stuck with this one, but see what the legs are doing. See what the position of the shoulders, the bending at the waist, where the head's looking. Those kind of things will help you be better when you go to photograph a subject. And let me just reconnect with my camera. There it is. I'll bring up the app. And it shows me there's the shot. And I'll just look over at the camera, which is just to this side of the video camera, and hit the button, and I get my shot. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to do a couple of these. I'm going to do it with the flash and without the flash. And then I'm going to put the umbrella on so we can see what the difference is there. All right, so I've got my umbrella. It's just a basic white shoot-through umbrella. I'm going to put this in the front of my light stand, which is right here. We'll remeter that. I'm going to guess it's going to have to come up maybe about the 8th power. And we'll use the same numbers. We'll go for 30% fill. And we'll see if we can notice a difference in the contribution of light and the quality of light going through the shoot-through versus bare. Now I'm sitting 9 or 10 feet away, so I'm not expecting a big difference, but I haven't tried this, so let's find out together. All right, so here we go, 30% through the umbrella. And it works. Well, we'll have to look at it on the computer to see if we can see a qualitative difference between the shoot-through and the bare. Now again, later on, when we shoot in this location where it's somewhat darker and we've got Tristan here, again, I can go really dramatic lighting with her. We're going to use the shoot-through, probably a little bit closer than we are right now, maybe 6 to 8 feet away, so that we're going to get that spread of light, because as the shutter speed increases on the camera, the contribution of the flash is going to go up. So it's going to be pretty much the primary, it's not even pretty much, it's going to be the primary light source. So it's going to illuminate some of these rocks right around here. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. This is all fun stuff. You have to go ahead and experiment, play with it. If you don't have a camera that can talk to your smartphone, then get yourself another Pocket Wizard and set up a remote trigger with just a single cable. I'll show you what that cable is. You just run the cable from the Pocket Wizard into the camera, hit the Pocket Wizard, fires the camera. It's really that simple. So let's take a look and see what we got. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have Tristan back here, and then we'll sum up and see what we got. So when Tristan arrived, it was already starting to get pretty dark, and we had to really go get things moving pretty quickly so we could get our entire range from 30 up to 90% fill flash. And this was done by putting the flash in a single position, shooting through that soft shoot-through umbrella, and adjusting the shutter speed. Our shutter speeds went everywhere from, about a 1/15 of a second to get that 30% flash and open up the background, down to 1/200th of a second to turn the background almost black. At 60%, even 40%, the flash is becoming the primary light source. 30%, it's still a fill, but once that shutter speed starts to get quicker, then that light becomes the primary. And the beauty of doing this is, all you have to do is adjust the shutter speed. The flash never moves, and you can get these effects. And we're going to cover this in more detail in the future, where we'll go over how to get that percentage of flash you're after and get that mood you want every time.